The Lives of the Saints by Father Alban Butler, March 22nd, St. Nicholas Owen. Possibly no one contributed more to preserve the Catholic religion in England during the time of persecution than a humble craftsman named Nicholas Owen, who during the reign of James I saved the lives of many priests thanks to his extraordinary ability to find hiding places for them. Nothing is known of his background or childhood, but he is believed to have been a builder. He was familiarly known as Little John and Little Michael, and also went by the names of Andrew and Draper. Synthesizing contemporary records, Father Tanner said of him, "A great servant of God in a tiny body." That was Nicholas Ordonius Owen, who spent 18 years of his life with Fathers Henry Garnet and John Gerard as the most faithful and useful of servants. Although born in England in a licentious age, he led an innocent life, untempted by the blandishments of the world. His confessor, who had known him from his infancy, solemnly assures us that he preserved his baptismal innocence undefiled until death. With incomparable skill, he knew how to find safe places for persecuted priests in subway passages, between walls and in hidden places. But he was not satisfied with just discovering the hiding place. He managed to conceal it so well that no one would have been able to find it. With his mason's skill, he moved the entrances, or made them appear to be something very different from what they were. He alone worked in those complicated works, drilling thick walls, digging deep pits, in a task that required stronger arms than those of such a tiny body, which earned him the nickname of Little John. Moreover, he knew how to keep his secret and never revealed any of his hiding places to anyone. Thanks to him, many priests were saved from the fury of their persecutors, and it would be difficult to find anyone who, on one occasion or another, has not whistled in Owen's hiding places. This redounded to the benefit of all Catholics, whose progress in virtue and access to the sacraments were due to him. The unusual success in the construction of these hiding places seemed a reward from heaven to the piety of Nicholas, since he unfailingly began his work by receiving the Holy Eucharist, and during the work he prayed without ceasing and offered the finished work to God alone, accepting no other reward than the merit of charity and the consolation of having worked for the good of Catholics. When he had been rendering these services for some years, Father Garnet admitted him into the Society of Jesus in 1580. Nicholas was the first Englishman among the lay brothers, although for obvious reasons his relationship with the order was kept secret. Owen was with Father Gerard when, on the tip-off of an unknown traitor, they were apprehended on St. George's Day, 1594. Nicholas was imprisoned in the Counter and subjected to terrible tortures to force him to reveal the names of the other Catholics. Both he and Brother Richard Fulwood were hung by the arms from iron rings and weights tied to their feet for hours. This was the torment called Topcliffe, which was also applied to Father Southwell. They were unable to obtain information from either prisoner, and Nicholas was released for a sum of money paid by a Catholic gentleman, because, according to the testimony of Father Gerard, his services as an inventor of hiding places for priests were indispensable to him and many others. Nicholas soon proved that he could do more than hide Catholics. He could get them out of prison. Indeed, Father Gerard's marvelous escape from the Tower of London was organized by Owen, although it was carried out by the Fulwood brothers and Lily. Owen himself was waiting for them with horses at a certain place. Father Gerard, in his narrative, says, "After setting foot on land, Richard Fulwood and I went to a house which Father Garnet had in the suburbs, and there Little John and I, shortly before dark, mounted the horses which he had prepared for the case, and set off at a gallop in search of Father Garnet, who was then in the field a short distance away." Father Gerard also mentions Owen's miraculous escape when he was lent by Garnet to build hiding places in a new house which Gerard had taken and was about to occupy. They had become suspicious, and the house was guarded. But it was so large that though they had a numerous body of spies, they could not completely surround it, nor guard all the exits so closely, that Little John could not contrive to escape without danger. At length, after having served faithfully for 20 years, Owen fell once more into the hands of his enemies, together with Fathers Garnet and Oldcorn. He came out voluntarily from the hiding place in which they had concealed themselves in order to be captured, posing as a priest, and thus saving the lives of the fathers, who were most useful to the Church. He was apprehended with Brother Ralph Ashley, a servant of Father Oldcorn. At first, he was allowed some liberty, under guard, so that his visitors could be seen, but Owen's prudence frustrated the intentions of his apprehenders. He was then sent to the Tower of London, whose jailer, Wade, professed a fanatical hatred of the Catholic faith. Wade kept his victim hanging day after day, sometimes for 6 hours at a time, even though Owen was ill and had a hernia, which was girded with a steel band. Owen steadfastly refused to answer Wade's questions and stated that he would only speak to God, invoking the help of Jesus and Mary. At last, the prolonged effort to which he was subjected stretched the martyr's body so much that his entrails ruptured in a frightful manner. The steel band tore and widened the wound, and in the midst of terrible agony, Brother Nicholas went on to receive his eternal reward. Attempts were made to vilify him and attribute his death to suicide, but his courage was too well known and the slander was not accepted. A proof which could only recently become available is found in the report of the Venetian ambassador Justiniani, who on March 13, 1606, wrote to his governor in the following form. The part in brackets is in cipher. I must add that while the king, James, was speaking to me, he mentioned that the night before one of the Jesuits, whose conscience was pricked by his sins, had made 2 wounds in his body with a razor. When the guards came, attracted by the screams, they found him still alive. He confessed to having taken part in the plot at the suggestion of his provincial Garnet, and now, recognizing his crime, he had resolved to commit suicide and thus escape death by hanging, as he deserved. Public opinion, however, holds that he died from the tortures inflicted upon him, which were so severe that they deprived him not only of his strength, but of moving any part of his body, so that they consider it implausible that he was capable of stabbing himself, especially with a blunt razor, as they allege. It is believed that he did not confess anything, but that being already dead, they have deceived the king by publishing this version, to excite in him and in the whole world the greatest animosity towards the Catholics, and to make the case of his companion, the provincial, more ominous. King James's assertion that Brother Owen, in his death throes, confessed to having taken part in the plot at the suggestion of his provincial is not only highly improbable in itself, but is contradicted by the fact that no such confession was even mentioned in the trial of Garnet. Father Gerard wrote of Brother Owen, "I really think that no man has done more good to all of us who work in the English vineyard. From the first, he had the immediate opportunity of saving the lives of hundreds of persons, both ecclesiastics and laymen, as well as their property, which would have been confiscated and lost many times if priests, sometimes as many as 5 or 6 at the same time, had been found in their houses, from which they escaped, not once but on many occasions, notwithstanding the same house was the subject of several searches. I myself was one of the 7 who escaped that danger once, thanks to a secret place he made. We can already imagine how many priests this man must have saved by his efforts during 17 years in all the counties and in the principal Catholic houses of England."